Quick disclaimer, I am not a writer. I have never written anything outside of a school assignment. I don't know anyone who's a writer, and so my criticisms and compliments to the show really come from someone who knows nothing. So, yes, take my opinions with a side of salt. This video will have spoilers for the show Amphibia. It goes over the whole show, so viewer discretion is advised. Okay, Amphibia is a show on the Disney Channel made by a man named Matt Brawley. It's really good, to say the least. It is a work of art. Could make God cry, this frog show. Okay, all hyperbole aside, it is really good, and I suggest you watch it before I spoil everything in this video. It is worth your time. It is a great show. Coming into Season 3, I have one big fear, and that it's gonna be unwell paced. I think that it was paced really well for a 4 to 5 season show, but for a 3 season show, I'm afraid it's going to be super rushed by the end. But to explain why that is, I need to first do a huge recap on the show and of the pacing of it. So, if you haven't watched it, this is your last chance to rewatch it or watch it, and, you know, see if it's as good as I say, and it is. Okay, ready? Let's begin. In the first season of Amphibia, we meet our main character, Anne Choi, who is a human from Earth, who now resides in Amphibia, a land populated by talking amphibians. There she meets her 3 compatriots for the rest of the show. Sprig, a young frog boy with a heart of gold who wants to go on adventures with his new human best friend. Hop Pop, an old frog man who lived his whole life in Wartwood, the setting of the first season, but who knows more than he lets on. He acts as a mentor to Anne, usually a voice of reason, or at least of caution, someone who's lived his whole life in the strange land Anne now resides in. Polly is a pollywog, and acts as the comedic relief, filling both the roles of the muscle, and, as she's the equivalent of a baby in the frog world, the damsel in distress. Surprisingly, she gets less annoying as the show goes on, which I find really rare for her character archetype as the innocent child who likes violence. What? How strange and funny. Most children do not like violence, but this one does. I don't like her character, but like I said, she gets less annoying and she's not without her funny moments. The show is definitely better with her, so that's the main cast, at least in the first season, and the plot of the show revolves around Anne getting back home with her 2 friends, Sasha Waybright and Marcy Wu. Along the way, Anne will realize that Sasha was kind of manipulative, and Sprig will help show her what a true friend can be. The first season of Amphibia is really slow, but it doesn't feel slow. Anne, along with the viewer, needs to learn more about the world of Amphibia. How is it similar or different to the real world? Who are the types of people we'll meet? What is the culture of the frogs and toads? We learn a lot about the world of Amphibia by the end of the first season, and it's good. Really good. The side characters you meet are fun, the places they visit are cool, and the creatures that inhabit the land are interesting. By the end of the season, Anne gets in a sword fight with Sasha, and it's really heartfelt, and it's really awesome, with very good animation. The season wraps up well, making you count the days to season 2, and it's really the perfect season. Every episode was good, and every character introduced was likable. It didn't feel slow or rushed, and if you didn't like the show, I would imagine that'd be because it's not your type of show. Maybe you don't like the found family trope, or would prefer more action. Both complaints aren't really problems as much as they are opinions, which is why I'd say for what it is, it's good. But there's this overarching mystery on how Anne can get back home. She got to Amphibia via a chest, which you would later find out to be called the Calamity Box. She opened it up and she got transported here. But how does she get back home? Well, that question is almost completely ignored for the rest of the first season. Don't misunderstand me, they do bring it up several times, usually once per episode. How does Anne get back home? They just don't develop that question really any further. By the end of the first season, we get no developments on how the box works, only that there's like a place where they might find information about the box if they were to go to it, but they don't go to it by the end of the first season. We know basically as much about the box from the start of the season to the end. So functionally, the whole season is solely about building the world and fleshing out the characters, which is fine. It's good even. It's great. This is a new world, and it's interesting, and if you need a full season to show off the characters, then you need it. Like I said earlier, it didn't feel slow. All the episodes were exciting. I don't regret watching it, and when all your characters are fun to watch, you don't mind the show that's character-centric. There is one major plot development though, and it happens in the last episode. We had seen Sasha before, in flashbacks and picture. We even got a Sasha-centric episode, and it was also really good. But until the final episode, we don't really get to see Sasha and Anne interact. But now they're together. Plot-wise, this does a lot. Anne can only go back home when she has all her friends with her, as we haven't really been introduced to any overarching villain or other challenge to face. The fact Anne needs both her friends to get home is the second biggest issue, as they are separated. So Anne and Sasha are together again. Oh joy, and the plot can move forward. All we need is Marcy and a way back home, and then the show is over. But as the episodes unfold, we find Sasha isn't the best friend, and by the end, Sasha and the Toads retreat, leaving Anne without one of her human friends, once again. Now with the Toads gone, Anne can finally leave Wartwood for Newtopia, and get information about getting home, but as you might have noticed, I didn't talk about the Toads stopping Anne from leaving Wartwood the entire time. Why? Because although it was talked about in the show a couple times, there was no real setup for Anne to go over and take out the Toads. Anne had saved Wartwood before, but it wasn't like she was training to fight the Toads. Hop had riled up the townspeople of Wartwood about the Toads once or twice, even having an episode where he runs an election against the Toad Maid. But the events of the episode don't directly affect most of the preceding episodes, as he loses, so we don't see the big repercussions of this election. We see news clippings and posters of unrest, but it's all secondhand. We know Hop was causing an uprising, so Sasha and Grimes came to stop him, and Ant happened to be there, and then they fought. Sure, these episodes affected the plot, but only the last one was really direct. Now I reiterate, this isn't bad. Having the plot of your show take a backseat to character development and goofy episodes is fine, especially when your overarching journey involves just going home. And this is the first season, so taking it slow and developing characters is kind of the point. If there's a time for Fun Frog adventures, it's here. But this is like a third of the show. For a third of the show, we didn't really have any plot-centric episodes, only character-driven stuff. We haven't even heard one of the three main humans yet. We've only had like 3 episodes of Sasha, and we still know next to nothing about the Box of Calamity. So it made a lot of sense in Season 2 when it got more plot-centric.
Okay, I just wanted to add this because I don't think I made it too clear. When your goal for your character, the main objective is to just get back home, it's fine to have character-centric episodes, nothing really furthering the plot, because the plot is rather simple. You don't need to do a lot. Since they haven't established an overarching villain or overarching problem, it's fine that they aren't really, talking about reaching your friends, because theoretically, if there were no issue, then the show would be over in like 10 episodes. They find their friends, and then they find a way home, and then they get back home. So establishing a villain or problem would have been good, but they don't have to do that in the first really season. Really, they could wait till the last episode, and that's fine. The problem is that this is a third of the show. So if they did this and there was like 10 seasons, like sure, you don't want to rush anything. But inherently, you need to go a little fast when you only have 3 seasons to establish everything. So, yeah, sorry if that wasn't clear. Sorry if it was clear, and I made this, but thank you.
In Season 2, it starts with Anne and the Planters going off by carriage to Newtopia. In a lesser show, you would only get one episode on the road and a lot of time jumps, but not Amphibia. We get roughly 5 episodes dedicated to the road trip, which is kind of important when you realize that's a fourth of the episode list. The planters arrive at Utopia on episode 6, so what were the last 5 episodes about? The characters. I can't say the characters weren't doing anything to further the plot along, but all they could do was drive to Utopia. It wasn't like we were getting too many big answers, but this isn't to say nothing important happens. We do get a little foreshadowing of what's gonna come, with a robot making machine being shown in the first episode and a robot coming out. There's clearly a lot more thought put into foreshadowing, but still, Amphibia is as good as it is slow. We also meet Marcy in episode 6, which is good, because Marcy is the best. Marcy is one of the greatest characters in the show. Every moment with her is exemplary, and she becomes a part of the main cast to make your day better. Every episode with her is an 11 out of 10, and also the episodes start becoming more plot-centric. I assume, because we got a lot of character development for the Planters and Anne in the first season, Season 2 finds it less necessary to show more character-centric stories that don't further the plot. We already know these characters by now, but make no mistake, we still have conflicts of interest and exploration of feelings. Just because we are learning more about the world doesn't mean we are ignoring the characters that inhabit it. King Andreas, Lady Olivia, and General Yunnan are 3 newts that we get introduced to. They are all very interesting, as you come to expect with the side characters in this show. Throughout the rest of the season, we would learn how to fix the Calamity Box, and we would see all of the girls charging their respective gems. By the end of the season, we also get the twist villain reveal that King Andreas was evil the whole time. So King Andreas explains how the box works, and wait, do you see what's happening? The overarching mystery of the box has been answered completely in this one season, but there's one more season left to go. What's the new mystery? Hold on to that question for a bit. In the final episode, big spoiler here, so go watch the show if you haven't already. Marcy gets stabbed right through her body. She isn't in great shape, and Anne and the Planters get sent to the human realm. Roll credits. What? True Colors is the final episode of Season 2. It is really good. So good, in fact, that I can't cover it all here. I can't do the episode justice in this monologue because in order for it to really hit you, you need to watch 39 episodes of character development. Needless to say, though, it was a wondrous season finale. Season 2 was a lot better than Season 1, but this was mainly due to the fact that Season 1 introduced the characters so well that when more dramatic scenes happened, it was felt. Because Season 1 took its time, Season 2 could go a little faster, and in the end, it was the perfect mix of character moments and plot beats. But again, I must add, for a 4 to 5 season show, because right before the final season, they answer how Anne could get back home. In fact, she gets home, but without Marcy and Sasha. It took 2 full seasons, but the gang still isn't back together. So what do they need to do in the final season? Well, Anne needs to get her friends back and master her new powers and fight King Andreas and win. And there's a couple questions that need to get answered. How are they going to do all that? Who are the people that helped make the Calamity Box? Who was the axolotl god I forgot to mention? And also, in the trailer, they revealed a couple new characters, the most obvious being Anne's parents. Also the government. And all those new characters need fleshing out. And are you starting to see the problem? There is 1 season left of this show, this very slow show that needs to answer and show all these questions and characters and plot points, and call me a pessimist, but it seems impossible to do in 1 season without feeling rushed. I mean, this is a show where a character A will lie to character B, and then it will take a full 2 episodes for character A to forgive character B. This is groundbreaking. And also, this is just proof the show takes its time when dealing with a serious event in a character's story. It was small, but I didn't expect them to actually talk about it. It felt really good to see the conflict get resolved, especially in the way that it was. Because they spend so much time with the characters, I never felt a character did something out of character. Everything always made sense, and that was one of the reasons the show was that good. but because of how slow it was, they still have a lot of character development to do. Sasha is clearly a good person now, but she could be better. I do think Sasha will be fully explored though, so I don't really fear that going haywire. Also, I love Sasha and Grimes and the rest of the Toads. Everything about them is interesting. Their look, their hierarchy, their famous generals. I want a book on just famous Toads. It needs to be a picture book. And Toad inventions. This is completely off topic, but yeah, if anyone's listening, I need a book on the world of Amphibia. I want just a bunch of pictures and a bunch of bibliographies on Toads. I will pay for this. I will pay so much money for this. I love these toads and the frogs and the newts, but especially the toads. General Yunnan and Lady Olivia we didn't really get a lot of, but they appear to be important in the third season, so we need more of them. These characters need time to be fully developed, but we just met both of them. However, both these characters are side characters. They might be interesting, but in truth, though it'd be cool to see them go on wacky adventures, they are marginally less important than, say, Anne's parents. No, I'm not scared for the Newts or Sasha, but I am scared for Marcy. Quick reminder, she got stabbed, but also, as shown in the trailer, she's part evil axolotl now. I, like most people, think that makes her look super cool, but I also think it's a terrible idea, and to explain why I think an axolotl god taking control of a semi-main character is a bad idea, I need to explain the body and host trope, or more accurately, the puppeteering trope, or maybe the chess master. These are all different, but I'll go quickly. I'm talking about evil body controlling now. That's the broad term.
Okay, so I go off on a trope I like for like 10 minutes. So just skip past that if you don't want to hear it, or listen to it if you want to hear the trope. Okay, thank you.
The people's puppet trope is when someone who's not the owner of a character's body takes hold of it and directs it what to do and say, like a puppet. This is most often done by an evil character, as it's kind of immoral to steal someone's body from them, and the trope inherently has the body being living and usually unwilling, so we aren't hosting a dead body here. So what is the point of using this trope? Well, it depends on what type of body controlling we're doing. There are two main forms of it in the media: literal body possession, i.e. ghost or spirit, or mind control, i.e. hypnosis. There's also a third kind that's more literal. It's like putting someone in a robot suit they can't control, but that's way different, so I'm not going to talk about it. Body possession is when there's a new soul inside a body. So there's a whole other character in this character. It's this character on the inside and the other character on the outside. This is useful for when you want a character to fight another character, but you don't have an excuse as to why, since they're both good and they wouldn't fight each other normally, but power scaling is much easier when the two characters just go toe to toe. So yeah, it's an easy excuse, along with the fact that the person in the body is in the body, which is to say that if they get hurt, they feel the pain, not the original person, as they're outside of their body right now. So it is important to give the person outside the body a role or use. Maybe they're possessing a puppet, so, not evil or a dead person, because otherwise you just have a character who's floating around doing nothing, contributing nothing to the plot, so that's not the best. Body possession also allows the possessor or possessee to gain some knowledge, because maybe they were listening to the bad guy while they were going about their plan, while they were a little soul, and maybe the bad guy becomes nicer because he was living in the good guy's head for about a month. Either way, there is that aspect that you can add, though it depends on your magic system. Mind control is a little different. First and foremost, actually, depending on the mind control, some people make it exactly the same, but it's kind of lame. Mind control is like body possession light, and inherently the risks and rewards are a little different. There is a understanding with body possession that the body it's in the same body, so if they feel pain, they feel pain. You might hurt the body, but you also hurt the soul inside the body. This is not the same for mind control. There's an inherent separation between the two. So there's the mind controller and the mind controllee, and yeah, sometimes the mind controller can see into the mind controllee's head. Sometimes they just force him to do something. So they'll say, kill that guy. And it's very important that the mind controllee does not gain intelligence or anything unless the bad guy does that as well, but that's not part of the mind control, that's just another thing. And this is important because when you're mind controlling someone, that person might not know what you're asking them, so if you tell them kill that guy and they don't really know how to kill someone, they can try, but they won't gain new knowledge. So if you give them a knife, they might not kill them with a knife just because they don't know how to. So you gotta specifically say, like, kill them with a knife. It's a whole deal. But yeah, that's mind control. The most common way of body controlling is a mixture of the two of them. So it's not really, it is usually still soul based, but it's like two souls in one body, and the evil one has like 75-90% control, but they still need to like convince the good part of their body. They gotta be like, you should kill your friends, and they gotta be like, alright, I'll do that because you make good arguments and also you're in my body, so okay. But the reason why this one is used so much is it has the added effect of, again, all the positives of body possession, but also they can have an emotional scene where the good guy not being possessed is like, I don't want to fight you, you're my friend, and then the possessed one goes, I do want to fight you, but not really because you're my friend as well. And it's really emotional, really heartfelt. One says a speech, and then you can see the possessed one like battling with the evil person in their head, and the bond of friendship frees them. And it's really powerful. It's important to note, though, usually the whole point of stealing someone's body is because you're not really strong enough to, just kill the main character. If you could, then why would you not? And possessing someone's body has the drawback of, if somebody kills that body, the person in it will usually die, and it might be both these characters, but usually it's a main villain that's dying, and you don't want that. So if you're going for these tropes, just know mind control is usually low risk, low reward. Body possession can be a medium risk, high reward. This is where you just want the main villain to be super powerful. And then the mix is high risk, high reward. Again, all of these for the villain, not the hero. So usually the higher the risk, it makes it seem like the villain is more strong. It's not even a risk for them. But yes. There is one big problem though, and that's the removal of a character. Now this isn't necessarily bad. The bad guy could be possessing a loser side character no one likes, but you have to have a good reason why the bad guy is doing that, the loser side character instead of the main character. The best use of this trope is the controlling of a character we like, one we want to see okay, and if the person who's getting controlled just snaps out of it after an episode because they're important and we need them for the plot, then it makes the villain seem like they're not that powerful, which is fine if it's a side villain, but not if it's a main villain. And if the person being controlled also snaps out in like a day, we don't really get that emotional scene because it turns out didn't really need it. They just kicked the bad guy out of their body. Super easy, I guess. So usually what happens is the person gets controlled for like about a season, so the villain still seems strong, but we don't miss them for too long. And we don't get to see the character for the full season, but absence makes the heart grow stronger, and it's harder to write the story with one less character, but it's fine. We'll get him back. And usually after, again, the heartfelt moment, we get to see the villain like, battling with the hero in the mind, and it's a good scene. Another big upside, though, is the things that come up in the next season, which is to say, usually a character that was possessed will feel bad because they hurt someone. Now, it might not have been them, but again, because it was mixed, it was the mixed body mind, they were still in their body. They didn't have control, but they still, theoretically, they were stronger, take the villain out of their body, and they didn't. And this will lead to character drama. And also, pro tip, if you have one of them get a scar from the other, that will be like a memory. It'll be like, I wouldn't have gotten that scar if I wasn't possessed, or if my friend wasn't possessed, he wouldn't have done this to me. So it's really emotional, and there's this bittersweet moment where the villain leaves, where they're like, we got our character back, but now they're going to suffer from the trauma of the villain being inside their head. So it's really, for the future, the next episodes, it becomes really powerful. So why is it a bad thing if this happens to Marcy? Like I said earlier, this removes a character, in this case Marcy, from the show, basically. Yes, her character design and voice is still there, but she won't be the same person because she's two people, Marcy and Evil Axolotl. Now, the removal of a character is fine, but this is the last season, so for the last season, we won't get to see Marcy. And I understand that this last season is specifically about Anne's family and the 5 months she was away from them, but still, Marcy is super important to the story, and the removal of her character from the main cast all the way down to a big mysterious villain is terrible. Also, this appears to be a mixture of body possession and mind controlling, the most common form, which means if she just snaps out of it, then that would mean that the BEA, or Big Evil Axolotl, is kind of weak. Along with this, we need enough time to speak about the emotional consequences of Marcy's actions. Usually there's a couple episodes, like I said earlier, dedicated to a character dealing with the fact that they did a bunch of horrible things, even if it wasn't really them that was doing it, but it was still their body. Will we have enough time to develop that? Anne was mad at Hop Hop for lying to her about the box. I need to see Anne talk more about Marcy knowing the box was a dimension hopper to begin with. We need Marcy to be evil for long enough so that she does evil things, and long enough so that we know the BEA is powerful, but short enough so that we get enough Marcy before the show finishes, and short enough so that Anne and Marcy can have a deep conversation about what just happened. This is going to be really tight, but I do think they could do it if they didn't also have to talk about Anne's family. Anne is Ty. Her voice actor is also Ty. The creator of the show is also Ty. Throughout the show, it was shown Anne cares about her Thai culture. She is shown to know the language, a form of martial arts, and in the trailer, we see a temple. All of this while she lives in California. In interviews, Raleigh talks about Anne's culture a lot. Something tells me we're going to get a lot of Thai, which is great! I much prefer learning about Thailand with Anne over wacky hijinks with Marcy. After all, it wouldn't make sense for Marcy to just be coming along with Anne, learning Thai stuff, instead of, being evil. But the problem becomes, I'm never going to see any more wacky hijinks with Marcy. This is the last season, so after we get to meet Anne's family and learn Thai stuff, and also see the planters interact with future technology, that was also a plot point, the show's over. Will we get enough of all that? Enough of Anne? Enough of the planters? Enough of Anne's family? Enough of Marcy? Enough of Grimes and Sasha? Enough of Thailand? Enough of Captain Bufo, the Toad Commander of the East Tower who dressed like a samurai and was the best form of Japanese representation they could have done in this show, as confirmed by me, a Japanese boy. Enough of General Yunnan. Enough of King Andreas, of the relationships of the people of Wartwood, of Anne's new Super Saiyan powers, of the Mysteries, of the Moss Man, and the gems of the Calamity Box, and the Toad and Frog by King Andreas' side, and that evil axolotl god, and all of this paced well enough to keep the mystery strange, the relationships realistic, and the stories fun? I'm sorry, but I don't think it can all just be done in one more season. I mean, we spent all of season 1 on just Anne and the planters, getting to know the characters. We need to spend all of this on the final season. They're also going to be adding the US military and these 2 engineers, and it's like, do you know how much time you have? You don't need to be a writer to figure out how much stuff that is. And it would be fine if there was just like one more season after this, and we could ignore Marcy this season, maybe give Sasha more time in the spotlight, and learn about Anne's relationship with her family and the planters, and then in the final fourth season it can just be Anne, Marcy, and Sasha, instead of what I think is going to happen, literally just one episode of Anne, Marcy, and Sasha, coincidentally being the last in the series. I think Anne, Marcy, and Sasha are the best trio in the show. They all work well off of each other, and the few times they are together, it makes the show 1,000 times better. So it'd be cool if Anne, Marcy, and Sasha all get together for a couple episodes, or even the majority of the season. But they don't really have time for that. So I guess my problem with the show is its characters are so good, its pacing so well, and its story so interesting that I think it's all going to go run straight into a wall, face first, right before the show breaks the barrier of greatness and becomes amazing on par with Gravity Falls, or maybe even higher. And this is coming from the guy who bought the third journal for markup price. It was a terrible business decision. I was in serious debt. I shouldn't have done that. I don't regret it though. But I don't think Amphibia has the time to flesh out all its new characters so that they become as good as the rest of the huge cast, to deepen the relationships of all its old characters, to show endings for something like Ivy's and Sprig's relationships, or Sasha and Grimes' friendship, and to come to a satisfying conclusion that makes me want to rewatch the show, but respect that this is the end of Anne's story, at least as I know it. I don't think that can all happen. I don't think that this can be the perfect show in just one more season, and I don't have cable, so I need to wait like a year before I can watch season 3 anyways, but I can't wait to watch it. I'm putting all my money on this show ending wonderfully, with all the character arcs finished and all the mysteries solved. Admittedly, I'm not too hopeful, and if it's just one more season, I don't see a way it could end perfectly, but as long as Anne goes on another adventure with frog people, I think the show will be great, and I can't wait to finish off this masterpiece. I'll make sure to do a review once I get around to seeing the third season, see what I was wrong about, and explain my mistakes. So if it turns out that the writers of a hit animated TV show end up actually being good at writing and the pacing of the same TV show, then I'll admit my mistake. But what are the odds of that happening? Also, I'm bringing this up again. I want a book on this world. There's so many different amphibians. The world is so big, with so many characters and references to people that don't exist. It's also interesting. I need several volumes of this on just the frogs, of the toads, of the newts, of the creatures, of the things. There is no merch. I can finally pay for something again, but there's nothing to pay for. I love Amphibia. I love the world. General Yunnan is the youngest general, but that means there are factions, there are militaries, plural. I cannot deal with this. I cannot deal with having no book about this. I love the character design so much. It's such a good show. Okay, thank you for your time, and have a good day.